December 26, 1944. A ring broke the silence at the supreme headquarters of the Allied forces. On the phone, General George S. Patton spoke words that would change the course of events. "We're in Bastogne." Eisenhower knew the call would come, but not so soon, not amid snowstorms and maneuvers that everyone considered impossible. For once, Patton had shown that what seemed unachievable could become reality. Eisenhower's reaction in that moment, and in the hours that followed, reveals much about the complex relationship between the two men, the turning point of the Battle of the Bulge, and the power of a genius determined to surpass every limit. This is the story of that phone call and what followed: words of relief, gratitude, frustration, and ultimately, an admiration that neither man would ever openly admit. December 19, 1944. The emergency meeting at Verdun, destined to enter history. German forces had broken through the American lines in the Ardennes, opening a huge gap in the Allied defenses. The 101st Airborne Division was surrounded in Bastogne, a crucial hub of roads and communications. If the town fell, enemy tanks could advance to the coast, splitting the Allies. Eisenhower gathered his top commanders to plan the response. The tension was palpable. The largest German offensive since 1940 had caught the Allies by surprise. Reports described chaos, disorderly retreats, and total uncertainty about enemy movements. Then Eisenhower asked the key question: "When can you launch a counterattack north to relieve Bastogne?" The generals exchanged hesitant glances, frozen by logistical challenges. Then Patton spoke confidently. "December 22nd, with 3 divisions." Silence fell in the room. Everyone knew how daunting it was. Moving 3 divisions from the front, pivoting them 90 degrees, covering over 100 miles in winter, and attacking within 48 hours was considered impossible. Eisenhower remained calm. Patton was known for his bold promises, but he was also their best hope. He leaned toward him, speaking with firm voice. "George, the 101st is surrounded. If they fall, it will be a military and moral disaster. When you say December 22nd, do you truly believe it, or are you just hoping?" Patton looked him in the eye. "Ike, everything is ready. 3 emergency plans have already been prepared. I knew you would call this meeting before you even did. On December 22nd, my 4th Armored Division will march to Bastogne. I stake my career on it." Eisenhower remained silent, reflecting. Patton had prepared everything even before the German attack began, demonstrating a foresight even he had not expected. But could Patton really turn those bold plans into reality? Finally, Eisenhower made his decision. "All right, George. You have your chance. But know this, if you fail, if those paratroopers are sacrificed because you promised what you couldn't deliver, the consequences will be severe. No second chances." Patton nodded firmly. "I'll be there, Ike. You can count on me." After the meeting, Eisenhower turned to his chief of staff, General Walter Bedell Smith, who would later record every word of the conversation. "I'm taking an enormous risk with George," Eisenhower said. If Patton failed, their careers would pay the price. Yet, for the first time, Ike felt he could truly rely on Patton's word. The stakes were so high that even the general himself dared not push further. Over the next 2 days, Eisenhower received constant updates from the Third Army. The news seemed almost unbelievable. Patton was truly achieving the impossible, moving troops, advancing north, and preparing for the attack. By December 21st, Eisenhower allowed himself a cautious optimism. Perhaps, indeed, Patton would succeed. December 26, 1944, around 4:45 p.m. Eisenhower was in his office at Versailles, immersed in reports on the situation in the Ardennes. The Battle of the Bulge was in its 2nd week. American forces had consolidated the north shoulder, but Bastogne remained surrounded, and the 101st Airborne Division continued to hold out. Suddenly, the phone rang. The duty officer announced, "General Patton on the line from Luxembourg, sir." Eisenhower answered without hesitation. "George, Ike here. We've reached Bastogne. The 4th Armored Division made contact with the 101st at 4:50 p.m. The corridor is narrow, but open. Supplies are getting through. There was a pause. Witnesses in the office noted Eisenhower's relief. His shoulders relaxed, the tension melted away. Then something unexpected happened. His eyes welled up, and he turned briefly, gathering his thoughts. George, say that again. You've reached them? Confirm? Ike. Captain William Dwight's company of the 37th Tank Battalion made first contact. The paratroopers are tired but holding. We're reinforcing the corridor. Eisenhower's voice thickened with emotion. George, congratulations. You did it. You really did it. Then, in a firmer tone, he asked, How secure is the corridor? Patton, as always, replied confidently. German counterattacks are hitting, but we're holding. After a brief exchange about tactical maneuvers, Eisenhower ended the communication. He sat for a moment, motionless, as if measuring the weight of what had just happened. Then he turned to his staff. General Smith recorded his exact words. Gentlemen, George Patton has just accomplished something I thought impossible. He had promised December 22nd, and today, the 26th, he has kept his word. Considering the conditions and the time available, it is almost a miracle. For a rare moment, Eisenhower smiled openly. Then he added, Send me a message to the 101st. Tell them that relief has arrived and convey my personal congratulations to General Patton and the Third Army. They have changed the course of this battle. A few hours later, Eisenhower had to decide how to communicate the news to the public. The Battle of the Bulge had sown fear in the United States. Newspapers spoke of possible German victories and the collapse of the Allies. The relief of Bastogne finally represented positive, tangible, and encouraging news. The public statement, released on December 27th, was carefully calibrated. Units of Lieutenant General George S. Patton's Third Army have broken through enemy lines to relieve the American forces surrounded at Bastogne. The operation, conducted under extreme winter conditions and against determined resistance, demonstrates the valor of American soldiers and the excellence of their commanders. The defenders of Bastogne showed extraordinary courage, and their relief marks a turning point in repelling the German offensive. The statement was formal and diplomatic, praising both the 101st's defense and the Third Army's action. But those who knew Eisenhower understood that his private words revealed much more. To Field Marshal Montgomery, coordinator of the Northern response, he wrote, Patton's performance in liberating Bastogne was exceptional. The speed with which he rotated the divisions and launched the attack exceeded all expectations, probably even those of the Germans. To General Bradley, Patton's direct superior, Eisenhower was even more candid. George kept his word when it really mattered. Despite the frustrations caused by his behavior and insubordination, this operation proves that leaving him in command was the right decision. He accomplished what no one else could have done. Finally, Eisenhower sent a personal message to Patton, revealing the complexity of their relationship. George, congratulations on a brilliant operation, executed with precision. Your planning, the Third Army's execution, and your leadership made the difference. I am proud of what you have achieved. But remember, this success does not erase past problems nor authorize future insubordination. You have shown what you can do when you work within the chain of command. Keep it up. There are no limits to what you can achieve. It was typical Eisenhower, sincere praise mixed with a clear statement of boundaries. He wanted Patton to understand that success does not justify everything. In the following days, extracts from Eisenhower's diary and private letters reveal his true feelings. These were not statements for public morale, but honest reflections on the weight of command, leadership, and the challenges of managing extraordinary yet unpredictable subordinates. On December 28th, Eisenhower wrote to his wife, Patton has accomplished something extraordinary. I've spent years struggling with his ego, his controversies, his insubordination, and I often wonder why I continue to keep him in command. Bastogne reminded me, when the risk is highest, when everything seems impossible, George keeps his word. I don't know if another general could have done the same. It is at once reassuring and unsettling. Am I perhaps relying too much on such a difficult man? To General George Marshall, Army Chief of Staff, Eisenhower adopted a more analytical tone. The Bastogne operation highlights both the strengths and the challenges of coalition command. Patton's execution was flawless, exactly the kind of mobile, aggressive warfare we need. Yet his ability to anticipate the crisis and prepare emergency plans raises questions about how much autonomy subordinate commanders should have. Patton had foreseen an offensive that most of us had not even imagined. He was right, we were wrong. How do we reconcile this foresight with the need for unified command? In his diary, Eisenhower was brutally honest. George exhausts me. Managing him requires more energy than managing 3 normal generals. Yet what he accomplished at Bastogne justifies every frustration, every argument, every moment I wanted to relieve him of command. The paratroopers owe their lives to Patton's speed and aggressiveness. Without him, the Battle of the Bulge would have been a disaster. I cannot dismiss a man who saves battles, nor can I scold him when he proves that his methods work. This is the impossible position he puts me in. He is right too often for me to change him, and too difficult for me to fully enjoy working with him. In a letter to British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, Eisenhower was equally eloquent. Patton has shown why, despite his difficulties, he remains indispensable. His intervention at Bastogne may have saved the entire Ardennes campaign. I understand concerns about his temperament, they are valid. But his operational abilities are equally real. At this stage of the war, we need his skills more than an easily manageable personality. The relief of Bastogne transformed the way Eisenhower viewed Patton. From then on, their relationship was based on what Patton demonstrated in practice, on results achieved rather than promises made, on real capabilities rather than potential. In January 1945, during a commanders' conference to draw lessons from the Battle of the Bulge, Eisenhower spoke publicly about the Third Army. The relief of Bastogne by General Patton represents one of the most extraordinary operational successes of this war. The speed, coordination, and aggressiveness demonstrated set a standard for mobile warfare. Other commanders would do well to study this operation. This marked a turning point. Eisenhower was, in effect, recognizing Patton as an operational model, a step that had been difficult for him until then due to the general's constant controversies. Bastogne, however, had earned Patton the operational recognition he deserved. At the same time, Eisenhower wanted to make it clear that success did not mean unlimited freedom. In a private meeting with Patton in February 1945, he said, "George, Bastogne has given you credibility for the rest of the war. Don't waste it. You have shown you can achieve the impossible when it matters. Now show that you can follow orders even when they don't match your preferences. Be the general I know you can be, capable of miracles, but one who also respects the chain of command." From that moment on, for the remainder of the European campaign, Patton received greater operational freedom than other commanders. The Third Army was assigned ambitious objectives and given the resources necessary to achieve them, with less direct interference than before Bastogne. Eisenhower understood that Patton excelled when given clear goals and sufficient room to maneuver. Years after the war, in his memoir Crusade in Europe, Eisenhower wrote, "General Patton's relief of Bastogne confirms my decision to keep him in command despite numerous controversies. The rapid movement of 3 divisions through extreme weather conditions, the aggressive attack, and the liberation of the besieged garrison demonstrated operational excellence at the highest level. History will judge Patton by his successes in the field, and Bastogne is undoubtedly among the greatest." In private correspondence, Eisenhower was even more personal. "George and I had a complicated relationship. He constantly frustrated me. But when I received that phone call on December 26, 1944, and heard we've reached Bastogne, I felt deep relief and gratitude. In that moment, all frustrations disappeared. George had saved the paratroopers and perhaps the entire Ardennes campaign. That is what I remember most, not the controversies, but the moment he kept his word when it truly mattered." The phone call announcing the relief of Bastogne was not just a tactical update. It was confirmation, validation, and a decisive moment in the relationship between Eisenhower and Patton. The general's words reveal admiration, relief, and the weight of leading a genius who was difficult to contain. If this story of leadership, extreme pressure, and incredible results moved you, subscribe to discover more untold moments from history's great commanders. Like the video, leave a comment about leadership and managing complex subordinates, and share it with anyone who appreciates the complexity of command. If you enjoyed this story, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. See you in the next video.